Alright, looks like today we're doing another headlight review. So if you'll notice, I've been through quite a few different LED headlight brands for Jeeps that I get sent for review. And we've got one more on the list, one that piqued my interest. Because, my goal is to find a brand that is safe for oncoming traffic and also looks cool and lights the road properly. I actually care about the headlight performance, not just the cool factor. So, yeah, so far, it's been kind of hard to beat these alien eyes over here. They have a very decent throw, they have a really nice cutoff, and they don't make the radio buzz. So we got one more brand to play with that I'd like to show you today. So here we have some of these bad boys. So at first glance, they may immediately jump out to you as truck lights. But, of course, these are knockoffs. Yay! So just to get this out of the way, this is not a paid review, but it is technically a sponsored review as I was sent these lights for free, but I'm still not going to go lightly on these. I want to make sure that they actually work properly. The store I was informed was DVI SUV. It's a store on Amazon, I guess, that sells these. There'll be a link in the description if you want to check them out. You'll see that they look very familiar with their dual separated design where they have a top and a bottom, very similar to how the old school headlights work. And if you look at that reflection, you can kind of see the LED chips in there, which is interesting. But yeah, right off the bat, they look just like the industry standard de facto truck lights. Now, what shines with this headlight is that there is a DRL strip in here, daytime running light strip, and blinker light all in one. So this has your low beam, your high beam, a DRL, and a blinker, all in one unit, and for slightly less than what the truck lights go for. From non-American brands, this is the most expensive headlight I've seen. But again, like I said, it comes with the DRL and the blinker, so you get a little bit more for about the same price. So on the back, this pigtail, it comes with a socket that interfaces right with the vehicle. A little loose, but okay. And you'll notice the two extra wire tabs here. So this is for the daytime running light part. So you'll notice we have a white wire and a yellow wire. All you have to do is provide 12-volt power to either wire, and that will activate either side. So this actually does come with an instruction manual, and it doesn't look half bad. So if we open it up, we can see some of the specifications about it. It's most of your standard stuff, but I noticed they're getting a little more realistic with their estimated lifetime. They've definitely gone down in time, but it says it's got a 10 volt to 30 volt DC input voltage. They're your standard 7-inch headlights. You'll notice the DRL color shows both colors, the white at 6,000 Kelvin and the yellow at 3,500 Kelvin. IP67 rated, 30,000 hour lifetime, and low and high beam pattern. So most of the ones I've seen in the past say 50,000, but again, they can pretty much put whatever they want on there. Whether or not you'll be able to test that is a different situation. But the thing that I like the most is pictures. Who doesn't like nice pictures? So they actually have a nice little instruction manual, and it's even on a Jeep Cherokee. So it tells you about each different plug, although they got the thing wrong there. It's not an H13 plug, it's an H4. But again, with pictures, it's kind of hard to mess up. You'll notice how they have the wiring hooked up for that. So number 3 is going to be the one that people have the most question about. What do I do with the white and yellow wires? Well, if you look over here, you can see we have this style on the right, not this one on the left. Your high beam and your low beam are all covered in the regular plug. You just plug that into your stock socket and it's good to go. The DRL has to be wired up separately. That's why they give you these terminals. These are the 2 male end spade terminals there. So you will need 2 female ends and your own wire and splice kit to plug this in. But yes, you will have to tap the factory wiring in some form to get your white and your amber. So okay, we have the 2 headlights. I don't believe it came with any hardware for the wiring, so you will have to source your own. For the price that these go for, that's a little upsetting, because like I said, I'm used to paying around the 100 range, maybe at the upper end of 120. But these go for almost $160, and they don't come with terminals, so that is a little disappointing for the price. Again, direct competition with truck lights, about the same price, and you get DRLs. So, anyway, enough blabbing. Let's start stabbing. So, if we come to the front of the Jeep, you'll see that there's not much to it. So we have our parking light over here. On the MJ, they are actually a Torx bolt, but on the Cherokee, they are Phillips. These are replaced, but originally they are Phillips. So that is what the Cherokee version looks like. And the MJ1, this has got all kinds of different stuff in here. We've got Torx, we've got Phillips, we've got flathead. Basically anything that could fit in the hole was in there. But we take these two long screws off. There's a bulb that we twist out. This cover comes off, and then we can get to our bulb. Okay, so here we are inside. As I said, this is just something that you spin and pop out of the bottom. It's just a little X pattern. And then this you just very carefully finagle out of the Jeep. Okay, so once you get into here, you can find our bolts. So we are trying to take off this chrome ring on the outside. So you notice there are two widely spaced screws at the bottom and two closer ones at the top. There is a middle screw. You will leave that. The middle screw is for adjusting the headlight beam up and down, and then the one on the side is to move it left and right. So those are your adjusters. If they haven't been touched in a while, see if you can free them up. But good luck. Sometimes they're just so far gone you have to replace them. They're, you know, I forget, like somewhere around 10 bucks on Quadratech and places like that. It comes with this little plastic socket, I think. It's it's a little snap-in deal with a long screw, like super duper long. But yeah, that's how you adjust your headlights if need be. Alright, I say this in like basically every video I go over, but for Phillips screws, if they are stuck for some reason, one of the best things you can do is to try and tighten them a little bit. So you put your screwdriver in there really firmly. You know, if it's jammed for some reason and you just cannot get that sucker to back out, and you're trying and it's just stuck, before you strip the head, push hard and tighten it a little bit. And if you hear that little pop, that means you freed it. So sometimes it's easier to push the screw in the direction it was originally going, i.e. tightening it, and then you can loosen it and it'll come right out. That is one of the best tips I can give you for stubborn Phillips head screws. And of course, if you love her, lube her. So now you can just kind of pull it all out together, and there you go. So usually you'll have a glass headlight, but this is an LED one. And you can see that there is a connector on the back that looks rather familiar. Now, a lot of people talk about using headlight harnesses. That's never a bad idea, because on these Jeeps, the full power of the headlight runs through the headlight switch under the dash. So it's very common that the switches go dead, they burn out, you know, things like that. You don't want all that power running through the stock switches. Now, one thing I will say is that the LED headlights do use a little less power than the halogen bulbs, especially the really high ones, like if you go nuts with the 90 watt, 100 watt halogen high beams. Yeah, so these use a bit less power. So it's a little better on your wiring, and they don't really care about voltage. Another thing is voltage drops. So on your stock halogen bulbs, the higher the voltage, the brighter they are. With LEDs, they have a voltage regulator in there. So as long as you're at that 10 volt minimum, they're going to be just as bright as when the engine's running. But yes, if you are worried about your old factory wiring, it never hurts to get a relay kit, and all that does is take the power from the switch and run it through a relay instead. Alright, so there you go. There's the new one dropped into place. Again, it just plugs right in. You notice the white and the yellow are still floating. We'll get to that. But for now, let's just see the darn thing turn on. Okay, so you can see that very distinct truck light look where it's that half and half. Now, I am seeing a little bit of glare, which I'm a little uncertain about, because what happens is the LED bounces up, hits the roof, and then comes down. But the problem is this black part right here is still kind of reflective, so any kind of reflections that's bouncing off the roof, bouncing off of that, you get a little bit of glare. Now, some of that is okay, so that oncoming traffic can actually see you. Again, you don't want anything killer. Now, again, these need to be adjusted before I can fairly talk shit on them, but I mean, from right here, though, they look fine. I don't really have a problem with that at all. So it's as you start to get down lower is when you want to get hit with the bright stuff. Now we're going to park next to a garage door and aim them and see. Okay, so now we can look at the setup a little better. With the high beams on, you'll notice that both sides are now on, so we have our highs and our lows all together. But honestly, it doesn't really look like it's that much brighter in my eyes. But you can see the two different setups being lit there. Holy crap, when you bend down here, that hurts like a son of a bitch. Whew, that's bright. Okay. So now let's mess around with the aftermarket stuff. So we've got 2 wires, and they need some kind of positive source. Now, this all depends on how you want your light to be run. But first, let's just see how they look before we get into the annoying part. So we're going to take our light, we're going to positive, so this should be the yellow. Damn, that's kind of bright. That's not bad. It's a very orange color. There you go. So you can see the orange there. Very pumpkin-y. Very classic, clean color. And there's the DRL, which honestly doesn't even feel as bright. The orange one feels brighter, but I guess if you're going to use that as a blinker, that's a good thing. So now, if we put them both on together, hold on. Okay. Oh, I like that. Okay, I was about to give them shit, but I'm happy now. Okay, so watch this. So we got white, and now I'm going to touch the amber while holding the white, and you notice the amber is still the same color. So the white is off, white is on, white is off, white is on. So, is that a built-in slow? Hold on, let's try that. Oh yeah, you see that? It's even got a fade. That's cool. I bet you that they do that for the delay, for the blinker delay. So that means it won't switch between orange and white when it's blinking. Because when your blinker's going off, it's going on, off, on, off. So obviously, if there wasn't a delay, it would go white, orange, white, orange. But now, it would be white. It'd be like blink, 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 and then after a while, it goes to white. Okay, now that's nice. I like that. That's very clean. So this means that you can run a DRL and a blinker together, and you don't have to do any fancy wiring. Everything is controlled in the light. That's nice. A bit of a theme that I'm going for with this MJ is I want to kind of clean it up and kind of bring it into the current age of lighting and stuff like that. So the DRL was definitely high priority, as was some kind of upgraded blinker system. But yeah, I think I'm going to wire this in. So now, how do you actually hook this up, right? The yellow is going to be quite easy. So we're going to go down to our blinker bulb down here. You are going to have 3 wires. You're going to have a ground, you're going to have a running light, and you're going to have a blinker light. So obviously you're going to want to tie this into the blinker light so that you can use your amber as a blinker. Now, if you wanted to use just the amber as your DRL, then you tie it into either the running light, so it comes on with these orange lights, or you have to do something a little more difficult and find an ignition source, and that will run anytime the key is turned on. So with modern cars, that's how the daytime running lights work. Whenever the key is on, the DRL is on. So if you want to do it that way, it will be a little more involved, because now we have to track down an ignition source. So we can look under the dash, check all the fuses, and find something, say like the radio or something like that. This pulls very little current, so you don't have to worry about running a relay or any fancy crap like that. All we have to do is find a 12-volt source that turns on and off with the key. So if we come under the dash, we can see what we're working with here. So I've got my meter down here so that we can check our voltages. And basically what I'm doing is just poking through here and checking, because we've got a few things like stuff called accessory and ignition. So those are some good ones to look for. But basically you just poke and check and see if you got a voltage. There's nothing there. There's nothing there. This is with the key off, by the way. So you'll see that there's 12 volts there. So what that means is that's a 12-volt hot source. So we can't use that, because then the lights would be on all the time, and that's not okay. You can also check fuses directly. So you see that this dome fuse has 12 volts. That's to be expected, because your dome fuse turns on all the time. Actually, this whole top row up here is all 12 volts. But the things like that ignition, this wiper thing back here, we have something called clock. There's some other clock and accessory things. There's ignition over here. That's all dead. It looks like they are all ignition sources. So let's turn the key on and check them. So key on. Okay, I've got 12 volts going everywhere. So now if we come over here, okay, see this has got 12 volts. Check over on the clock. This terminal has nothing. This middle terminal it's a little lower. That's like 10 volts, so that's a little crusty. Not great. This one down here is nothing. You can see these two are connected when I move it. When the one moves, the other one moves. Clock, again, that's our... Oh, that's really weak. That's like 5 volts. That's not great at all. So that wouldn't be a great one, but again, that's due to battery corrosion. Check our ignition one. That's 10 volts. Still not perfect, but it looks like over here there's rear wiper one. That's nice. It's a nice clean, just about 12 volts. Not too much voltage drop there. Oh, transmission. We want to check transmission. That's a nice clean 12 volts. So that would make a great source right there. Now to wire that up, there's a very easy way that you can wire that up if you just want to get it done real quick. You can use these vampire clips. So the way that this works is you run 2 wires in there and you close this down, and this little blade cuts through the insulation and makes contact with the wire. So it's basically a no-cut splice. It's not the best because a lot of shaking will slowly over time cut through the cables and wear them out. So it's not exactly considered the best idea for long-term durability, but it does get the job done. I've done that on my XJ and it has worked. And they do hold up. I just have it run into to the parking light, so anytime the parking light is on, this is on, which I guess I'll show you. So if we just turn our parking lights on like that, anytime this light is on, that light's on. This bulb likes to act a fool sometimes. Bastard. But the other side works. But anyway, that's what you could expect if you want a parking light DRL. That would be really, really easy. You don't have to run wires anywhere. You just tap to that, and anytime your parking lights are on, your daytime running lights are on. But if you can find yourself an ignition source, then you can run them all the time. Okay, so I started digging around a little bit more, and I think I found a solution that I liked. So one of the issues with tapping into one of these is obviously you still want a fuse connected to your wire. If you just tap straight into here, you don't have a fuse, so you either have to run an inline fuse or figure something out. They also make fuse extenders where like you put an adapter in there with a fuse and there's a side tap. That is also a way that you can get power if you really need to. It's not great, but it works. But if you look down here, we have something that says power accessory, and if you notice, it wiggles this one over here from this clock. So these two are connected together, and we get a 12-volt ignition source from here. So our fuse is here, and we have a tap to the fused power. So if we come down here to our meter, we're on our resistance mode, but we're on a continuity beep test. So when the meter touches each other, it beeps. And if we check those, they actually have continuity. So we can put a fuse in here and have an ignition source come out, and then we'll have our daytime running lights. Sweet! Okay, so we're a lot darker and a lot of things are missing now. I've got the wire run for our daytime running lights. So we've got a couple different connectors on here. We've got 2 female ends here. One is grouped together. One will run to the driver's side, the other side goes to the fuse box. On this end, we've got the one female for the headlight and the one male for the fuse box. So now we're going to run that down and through this whole channel so it looks nice and factory fresh, and through the hole. Okay, we'll update when this is all back together. Alright, so we got side 1 popping out of here, and I just ran it down the smaller one of these two because every single one of these clips were popped out. So we just have it all nicely run and tucked back there and here, and would you look at that, daytime running lights. Where's the daytime? And if we come down here, we have our fuse hooked up, so we got that 5 ampere, and runs right to that accessory power. All good. So when we take the key off, it shuts off. No more daytime running light. Excellent. Okay, so now that we have our daytime running light part figured out, we need to figure out the blinker part. So we have the bottom connectors out with the bulbs out, and I just have the 4-way flashers on. And using the meter, we have a yellow, a brown, and a black. The black is ground, and our yellow is our blinker. Our brown is the parking light. So I just used a meter here on volts and tested, and you can actually see the one blink up and down. So that's an easy way to tell, is to just probe your wires and figure it out if the diagrams don't make sense. So we're going to kind of do it the bootleg way with our vampire clips, just because I don't feel like soldering. But we do have these ends done up all nicely, so we're just going to run them from the bottom down there and then clip them and call it a day. So nice and quick, and then we'll button it all back up. So there we have it. That's everything all wired up. And in case you're unfamiliar with how a vampire clip goes, if you haven't seen the metal thing, you just squeeze it down with some kind of pair of pliers and it'll crush the wires and connect them, and then you just cover this little flap. And there you go. It's a little sketchy, but it works. But anyway, that's the finished product. So you can see both of our blinkers are now blinking. That's what the headlight's on. It's a little hard to make out because it's so damn bright. So let me turn off the headlights and show you the rest of it. So that's just the blinkers. And then when you turn the turn signals off, they slowly fade back in. It's pretty neat. They didn't really seem like they came on at the same time, so that could be internal differences between units. So that part sucks a little bit, but the overall effect is still really cool. So that's pretty much everything wiring wise. So we're going to button this back up and then we're going to start aiming them. Neat. Alright, so here we have it. Our clean install. Locked and loaded. Pretty snazzy. I kind of like how fast the blinkers are. Like the LEDs, how they're like perfectly on or off. There's not that fade. It definitely grabs your attention a lot more than the older bulbs. I kind of dig it. It's neat looking. So that's with no headlights. The slow fade in for the daytime running lights. I like the slim line look to it. Nifty. Alright, so now it's time to do some headlight aiming and check out the beam pattern. So, right now we have the vehicle up against the garage. So I'm going to put 2 tape marks where the horizontal center line is, kind of like in the center area where the headlight is. We're going to mark that on our garage. We're going to back up 25 feet from the headlights, and then we're going to check our adjustment and look at our beam pattern. Let us see what we see. But just as an initial look, you can kind of get a feel for what we're dealing with here. Okay, so we take our measuring tape and go back 25 feet. And we line up the headlights with that. Now hopefully I'm not too much at an angle. That's the other thing, is you have to make sure you're actually pointing at the damn thing straight, so I'll measure both sides and make sure. But just to show you now where the marks are, I have a horizontal line about with the horizontal axis of the headlight, and a vertical line for the vertical. So same over here, horizontal and vertical. I was reading a quick guide online. You make a second mark. On the driver's side, it's 4 inches lower, and on the passenger side, it's only 2 inches lower, being that they want the driver's side light to be a little bit less out of oncoming driver's eyes. Alright, so I kind of really got to hurry here, but I adjusted the vertical. Now I'm doing the horizontal, so I actually have the one headlight covered here. So I'm moving this over so that we get a better pattern. So it kind of depends on your preference for where you want this thing aimed, but it's looking pretty okay. I'll show you the horizontal real quick. So you see how that drops it lower, and this brings it up higher. So it's a little hard to tell where the cutoff is. It's not super sharp, but this big bright spot, this is the spot that I'm pretty sure is coming from the plastic, maybe. Yeah, that little glare there. But that's not terrible. So that's with both of them. See how the driver one's a little lower. I'm going to take some pictures, and then we're going to drive real quick. Okay. So overall, that is our new adjusted beam pattern. I think I'm pretty happy with that. So that's the low beams, and that's the high beams. So it's kind of weird how the left side kind of looks like it's a little higher than the right, even though I feel like I brought it down. I could play with it a bit. Maybe I'll drop it a tiny bit to even them out. As you can see, it's starting to rain. So it's time to pack this in and take it for a little drive. Want to recheck our glare test. See how we're looking. Right now, at my standing height, very comfortable. Let me see if I can bring this down. I mean, it hits a point like way down here is stupid bright. That's definitely the cutoff. And over here, it's like, it's bright. It's kind of annoying. You've got like 3 different levels where it's like, okay, those are LEDs, that kind of sucks. And then you get down here and you're like, oh, that's where the beam starts. So I'm not sure where that part comes from. But, oh, fuck. Yeah, you can definitely tell where it starts and where it ends. All right. So here we are. I don't really have a camera holder right now, and the other camera's basically dead, so this is gonna have to do. Let me turn that off for a little bit. It's also a manual, so I'm just kind of letting it sit in third. So a little uncertain if it's too low or not. We could always mess with it a little bit, try to bring it a little higher. But overall, kind of decent. Get your water angle if that's a little better. I mean, as you can tell, the cutoff really isn't all that bad. I see my tachometer stopped working, that's nice. Loose wire? Popped fuse? Who knows? Honestly, I can't really complain about the pattern all that much. I mean, besides those like little hot spots that were at the top when we were looking at the garage, they're smooth. There's not really any blanks. It's very filled in. Kind of nice. Really don't mind it. And in case you want to know what you look like when you're on the side of the road, well, something like that. Nifty. Okay, well, I messed with it a little bit. So that's our low beams now, and our high beams now. Cool. Honestly, I like. Big fan. So, what's it look like in the rain? Probably help if you had wipers that work, but you got your low beams and your high beams. Cool. Alright, I mean, I know I wanted to test it all, but this might be a little extreme. Talk about timing. High beams, save me. Alright. Well, if you want to test, this is a freaking test. I can see pretty well. Although something's going goofy, like in between losing RPMs over here. Really hope this thing makes it home. Oh boy. Come on, baby. Alright, well I guess that about wraps that up. So, like them, hate them, let me know in the comments below. I'm going to run them for now and see what I think long term, but overall, not too much to complain about. They're kind of sweet. Link in the description below, and thanks for sending them out for review. Alright, until next time, see ya.